YouTube, welcome back to UniX DBS. We are back today to talk about some of the SCRs, and by some of the SCRs, I mean all the SCRs that are coming out for this next set. And it's kind of like wild if you gotta I feel like it's wild because the set's not even out yet, but we have all the SCRs. Now this is because, you know, we got one of them. We had a lot of things happening that we're going to kind of need some flashy showing off. We had San Diego Comic-Con, we had Gen Con, and so between all these things, it was just kind of just really crucial that Bandai put out some stunners, you know what I mean? So very happy to be able to go over these this early in the set. And we've got 3 of them, and we know there's gonna be a god rare this set, so we're still kind of rolling the dice on which one it's gonna be. Everybody's kind of got the stuff they're pulling for. So yeah, I'm happy to dive into these. We're gonna go into all the effects, and we're gonna kind of talk about how I rate them and how I feel like they're going to impact the game. That being said, bear with me when it comes to consistency, because I had a very good interview go down. It's gonna cause me to have a job that's gonna have much more stable hours when it comes to weekends off, pretty much all of them, which means I'm going to be able to participate in a lot more online tournaments as well as travel to events. So this is potentially, very likely, hopefully, cross your fingers, give me spirit bomb luck, going to be a new era in the you know, the UniX just franchise kind of deal. I'm gonna be able to do a lot more things. Past that, it's also likely going to result in a move, which means no more basement. Instead, I'm gonna have my own office for stuff like this. So more dedicated space. It's just gonna be a really good vibe, and I cannot wait. So we're gonna get into the video, and I do want to say that if you want to join the UniX fam, now is the time. Like, you don't have to, but if you just needed that little reminder, that tiny little nudge, here is that time. Go over there, click the subscribe button, like the video so it trends, and you know, just comment, because I love responding to those. I love seeing a a forum going on about the format. And yeah, if you want to talk about it in the comments, you can. If you want to go and hop in the Discord, the link's in the description there as well. So yeah, we're gonna put up the template, and then we are going to keep it rolling from there. So now that the template's up, I'm going to give you guys a fair warning. I look at ultimate cards in a very specific light, because the keyword ultimate, of course, by definition, means you can only have one of them in your deck. And while there may be a plethora of cards that have the keyword ultimate, only a few of them are actually worthy of this term. I look for ultimates to do one of 2 things. They either need to give me an effect that is so far and away unavailable to the rest of my color that it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer to include it. It needs to do something that I cannot do with any other card in my set, or it needs to do what is in line with my set so freaking well that it just increases my ceiling dramatically. And what I mean by this, just to give you a quick rundown before we put the card on screen, when it comes to the first, I consider Baby Hatch and Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta Unbridled Power to be, or Unbridled Might, I think it is, to be in the first category. Blue has plenty of negates, Blue has plenty of bounces, but not anywhere in Blue, actually, to be honest, not anywhere in the game is there a card that just straight up says, hey, I resolve for free, essentially, and your opponent is now forced to not be able to win the game this turn. That is Baby Hatch. No other card effect is going to give me that. And so when it comes to Blue secret rares, unfortunately, we have a very steep wall to look at. And that's just kind of that. We will get into that later, because some people may feel like I'm being a little too harsh on things. But when it comes to Vegeta, Vegeta is a red card, and red has plenty of minus power effects. Red has the ability to swing for double strike and triple strike often, but the thing is here, to deal damage to both leaders and unisons, red almost always has to turn sideways, which means that counters, blockers, as well as combo power all come into play before red can deal its damage from playing a card to actually connecting with it. Vegeta not only is blowing up cards in mass, it is mass board wipe, not through minuses, which can be sometimes hit or miss if the card is beefy enough, but to straight destruction. It is also critting your opponent a life. And that's happening versus, that's happening outside of you lowering your opponent's life or your opponent's leader's power down by 5k, which is going to sit there and allow you to soften up the opponent for whatever you still have on board, or maybe putting on board outside of that. So when it comes to these things both do that. It's crazy. But when it comes to a card that's going to just further increase your ceiling, we are going to look at cards like Celzino that, you know, if you were playing an aggressive deck before Celzino got its errata, you were able to go gas, 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 gas. Okay, I have 4 cards in hand, but I'm going to kill 12 cost worth of things on board, play Celzino, and I'm going to swing twice for actually, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna swing twice for quadruple strike. Like, that's monstrous. That's absolutely monstrous. I think pre-errata, I think you got to, no, it got to swing once for quad strike. So that's my bad. But the point is, you had a 4k or 40k quad striker that could just come down and swing, and that was just far too much. It's like, it didn't even matter that you couldn't remove 3 cards from their hand and he wasn't dual attack. You were able to literally end your massive onslaught in green or yellow with a card that could swing for 4 damage at 40k. And chances are, if your deck was as aggro as things like, I don't know, Majin Vegeta, then you were likely getting to a space where you were pushing all the negates and combo power out of their hand just to swing for 4k or 40k quad strike. So those are the kind of things I'm looking for. Vegeta also kind of stands in line with this. If they don't handle your board when you are playing Vegeta, you run the risk of having your opponent play their Vegeta SCR, and even if they don't want to swing with it, they can sack it, lower your leader to 10k, and then blow up your entire field and your unison. So if you had anything that hinged on you having your unison on the board to play it, goodbye. Now everything on board that you didn't get rid of is now swinging at your 5k less leader, and you have 1 less life to deal with, and it went to the grave. So it fits, Vegeta fits in both categories, to be honest. So yeah, with the template up, I do want to get out of that intro and say that if you want to see these spoilers in real time, make sure you are following the official Dragon Ball Super card game group. This is where they put everything, and we discuss it on the official, unofficial community group, which are both linked in the description. Last but not least, we have a sponsor. We'll talk about that later. It's gonna be shorter than normal, but yeah, let's jump into it. So we're gonna talk about Barddock. So looking at Barddock, what we have here is, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty cool. So we have with Barddock is, he is Barddock Origin of the Legend. 8 cost, he's a 1k, or he's a 1 cost 10k combo. Ultimate, deflect, double strike, dual attack. Already a bunch of good keywords. Activate main for 3. If your leader is a sand card and your opponent has 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand and then choose up to 1 of your opponent's cards and switch it to rest mode. This, alright, we're gonna keep going. Activate main, remove this card from the game, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, and KO them. During your opponent's next turn, they can only attack 1 time with battle cards. Okay, so here's the thing that we are going to talk about first and foremost. A lot of people have been saying this card is mid. I think that lots of people don't seem to understand that this card might as well have been a black card. Like, straight up. It might as well have been a black SCR. It's literally just usable if you have a sand card. Do you, like, just understand that in this format, if you so chose, you could use this in UI Goku. Because it doesn't say sand only, you could use this in U7 Gohan, you could use this in U7 Vegeta, you could use this in either Turles deck, you can use this in Black Trunks. Like, there is no limit to how many sand leaders there are, which means this card is always going to be a potential card, because it doesn't say yellow sand, it says is a sand card and your opponent has 3 more energy. Now, its first effect is kind of weird. It is a 3-drop, and it requires your opponent to have 3 energy, not you. So that means that on average, if your opponent goes first, it can be used on your turn 3 for a full tap out. Depending on if you have Awakening, that could be better. But if your opponent goes second, it can only be used on your turn 4. Reading your opponent's energy is always more fair, but it always feels worse for the turn player because it's less broken. Now, when it comes to this effect, yeah, he comes into play and you choose one of your opponent's cards, switch to rest mode. That kind of is feeling already a little sucky. Like, I wish that went through barrier. That way you could just tap a barrier blocker. And then you have your deflect double strike dual attack. So he's going to be able to swing twice for 40k double strike. That's actually very, very strong. No barrier though, so he's still kind of very susceptible to a fair amount of cards. Now, activate main, remove this card from the game, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, ignoring barrier, KO them. During your opponent's next turn, they can only attack 1 time with battle cards. Okay. So if you want my initial reaction to this one, not even initial reaction, this is actually a thought out reaction. I think that this card is going to age well because it will be able to be slotted in to any sand leader. It's just going to be a matter of what's in the format and what you're afraid of. If every deck in the game right now was blue-yellow, this card would be unplayable because between Final Flash and Lightning Fast Kefla, you would never be able to get this guy's effects off. However, this card is still a threat. It only costs 3 for such a threat, and you can end up blowing up your opponent's cards while making sure that they cannot mount an offense next turn. This is pseudo, it's not hatch, but it's actually really crazy. They can only attack 1 time with battle cards. So they get a unison swing, a leader swing, and a single battle card swing. That is a little rough. I will put it that way. They're still getting 3 swings in, and that's more than enough for them to try to push through you. So I have to say that this, even though this is going to be a card that can find its mileage in a plenty of decks, I think that in terms of power, this is a very, very weak card. I don't see myself wanting to play this over Supreme Kai of Time. I don't see myself wanting to play this over Pan, in most cases. I don't see myself in most yellow decks wanting to play this over Gohan and Piccolo, the SCR, Piccolo and Gohan. I just don't quite yet. So, we'll probably rewind back to this, but I just think it's very vulnerable. The more and more I think about it, there's so much stuff that hits this. It doesn't have deflect, but like, it doesn't have barrier. If this card had barrier, I would feel so much better about it, because yeah, you know, it's like Final Flash will still work on it, but you can at least, you know, not be double negged by King Vegeta's Imposing Presence, which is a popular card. You could avoid things like Kefla. You could avoid certain cards that just come out and pop things. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But now we're gonna move on to the next one. Next up on the list, we have SSB Kaioken Son Goku United Divinity. All right, first and foremost, if you guys have known me for any measure of time, you know that I think that Kaioken Blue is one of my favorite transformation forms in the entire continuity. Not because I particularly think it's just like the bee's knees. I like the concept. I like the concept of Super Saiyan Blue being about ki control and like mental calmness, while Kaioken was about, you know, just like pumping the heart up, increasing circulation. And that's why it could never be used as Super Saiyan, because Super Saiyan is a rage-based transformation, and using Kaioken plus Super Saiyan would be very dangerous for a heart that is still beating, which is why Goku only used it in filler while he had no living body to kill it with. So this is actually pretty freaking cool. I've always loved this transformation. Past that, the blue plus the kind of pinkish red always looks so crisp when the foiling is right. Like if you guys remember that Kaioken Blue, the Kaioken Blue promo, I think I have one foil of it in my collection. It just looks so, So with this, ultimate deflect triple attack. Permanent, for each card in your opponent's energy, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 3. Permanent, you cannot place cards on top of this card. Okay, auto, if your opponent has 4 more energy when this card is placed, switch all of your mono blue energy to active mode. Okay, so we are about to really get into this. SSB Kaioken Son Goku, 40k deflect triple attack. When your opponent has, let's see, for each card in your opponent's energy, reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 3. So when your opponent has 2 energy, you can play this for 2. Very interesting. And then you can't place cards on top of this card. That's fair because this card could evolve into a whole bunch of cards. And you also don't want a victory strike. Like there's things you don't want to do. You can't victory strike on this card, but you just don't want to be able to evolve on this card because it's a crazy extensive play to think that you could play this card, untap all of your energy if your opponent's at 4 or more, and then you could swing multiple times. Now, this card has a lot of interesting abilities. One, it can be used as early as your opponent's, like the moment your opponent's at 2 energy, you can tap 2 for this. So this is actually pretty crazy. 40k triple attack body. This is giving me, in some senses, Cell Zeno vibes in the sense that you can turn this into a very strong top end for an aggressive blue strategy. However, there are kind of certain points to this card. One, it gets its best effect when you're at 4 or more energy, making this effectively a mid-game card. And if you were getting to the mid-game, paying 2 for a card on turn 5 that then untaps your 5 energy could be very strong. However, when we're looking at cards right now, we have to look and see how many blue strategies are going to allow us to be in a space where 3 40k attacks and then untapping 4 to 5, maybe 6 energy makes it, you know, relevant enough to be playing this card. Because in a perfect world, there's going to be a time where you're at 5 energy and you spend 3 energy making strong plays. Then you play this card for 2 energy, untap your 5, get 3 40k swings in, and then play 4 more energy worth of cards, potentially more if you have Sensu Bean, to really just set this on fire. I think that's very relevant. Now the question is, when it comes to those 2 categories that I put out before, is this fitting in either of them? Like I said, this guy gives untap, which blue has a plethora of between D Magic, Boo Unison, as well as Sensu Bean. However, we are also now looking at the fact that when it comes to effects that blue doesn't have, this offers nothing. Blue has dual attacks, not this high, but blue has dual attacks. Blue has some triple attacks with the Super Saiyan God Goku that came out in Realm of the Gods. What blue does not have is, outside of any other card but Hatch, is the ability to just be safe for a turn, provided your opponent doesn't Baby Golden Avenger you or cooler counter. So I think that we are in a space where this card could very well be good. Like, if we get an aggressive blue strategy that could capitalize off of you just going off insanely in your opponent's face, this could be dropped. Like I said, if you could somehow cantrip your way into a turn 3 kill, you could drop this guy for 2 energy and then swing 3 times with 40k and just end it right there. If you had Sensu, you could open up even more energy while swinging at like 45, maybe even 50, depending on how high you boost him. But what this card does not have is barrier, which means once again he's available to be destroyed anything, destroyed by plenty of, like, you know, counter effects. Now the other thing that's kind of weird about this guy, in my opinion, is that because he doesn't really have an effect outside of swinging or untapping all of your energy when he's played when you have 4 more energy, which is a time in the game where he's going to be definitely less effective because your opponent has had time to set up. He is in a realm where you play him, and if anything happens to him in the combo phase or combat phase, it's just detrimental. He has, like, look, with Vegeta, you can play Vegeta, and Vegeta is going to come down on the field, and if you don't feel safe about attacking him, you just take your opponent's entire field, crit their life, minus them by 5. This guy comes down, and, I mean, if you look at your opponent's field and you don't feel safe about attacking, there's nothing you can do with this card. You just might as well not even play this card. Whereas Hatch is going to make sure that you survive. So, unfortunately, I will put this guy in a weird space. I think this could very well be a card that will define a deck at some point. I just don't think currently we have any blue decks that this is going to define. He also only untaps mono blue energy, so it won't even really be good to splash him. You will need to be playing him in a mono blue deck, and he will need to be able to put in work. And the fact of the matter is he's best played on turn 3. I think for a strong kill, maybe turn 2 or turn 3 for the most effectiveness if you can push your opponent that low, that fast. But he doesn't get to untap your energy until turn 4, and probably turn 4 might not even be the best time to use that because you're using half your energy to untap all of your energy. He's probably best used on turn 5, and by turn 5, a simple 40k triple attacker is just not cutting it. So I'm going to put this guy on the back burner for now, and we'll move on to our last one. So now we're on to the last one. This one is SS4 Vegito, A Light in the Dark. And yeah, that's right, we got another hairy boy SCR. And that actually is going to segue directly into our sponsor. See all that hair on Vegito. We all know that Vegito is quite, simply put, one of the swaggiest people in the entirety continuity of Dragon Ball. And you think he's going to gain literally 4 pounds of body hair and not make sure that he smells the absolute best he can possibly smell? Correct. And you're probably wondering, how does he do that? That's a lot of hair. That's a lot of sweat. Is it Capsule Corp? Could be, but it's most likely Dr. Squatch. And that is the sponsor for this video and probably a bunch of future videos. But hey, look, I've got a whole bunch of coupons and just links that you can buy some of the coolest, best smelling natural soaps as well as shampoos. There's things that help you exfoliate your skin within these bars of soap so that your skin stays clear, less blemishes, all these things. And because it's fully natural, it is so much better for not only the environment around you, like the trees and like the soil that kind of just get damaged by the pollution, all the synthetic stuff that we end up throwing away or spilling or putting in our drains, but also the environments that are more personal around you, like people's noses or, you know, people's noses. So I guarantee whether you're trying to woo somebody or you're already with somebody, smelling good goes a long way, and there's no better way to do that than by using Dr. Squatch's natural soaps and shampoos. All right, back to the video. Now, moving back over to SS4 Vegito, A Light in the Dark. We got a lot of effects to read. All right, Ultimate Deflect. Overarm 6, if your leader card is a mono red sand card. Auto, if you have 4 more mono red energy. When this card is played, your opponent reveals their hand. You can choose up to 1 battle card with 35k power or less from your hand. Your opponent discards it, and then choose up to 1 of your mono red leaders, and until the start of your next turn, it gains plus 10k power, and this card gains quadruple strike. So, this is crazy in a lot of ways and underwhelming in certain other ways too. SS4 Vegito, A Light in the Dark is an overrealm that is red. They said when we first got overrealms that overrealms would eventually be in other colors than black, and that never really came into fruition until now. So that kind of like it's a thing. It's a thing. But the whole point about this is a lot of people have been saying this is like insane and this instantaneously power creeps Vegeta. I think in very few decks is this card better than SSB Vegeta, because like I said, SSB Vegeta comes onto the board, and whether you want to swing with him or activate his effect, he literally has varying scales of usefulness. He can come to the board, and at full price, he can swing twice for 40k triple strike, and then remove himself, kill the entire board, crit your opponent for 1 life. In a complete vacuum, he can deal 7 damage by himself. That is insane. Even on his worst, he's coming down to the field and then he's nuking them and he's like critting them and he's lowering this. Now this Vegito, he gets to peek at your opponent's hand and take away 1 battle card. This could potentially be so much better if we didn't constantly main about 3 blocker negates per deck. like, do you know how stupid you're gonna feel if you look at your opponent's hand and you rip away a super combo or maybe a battle card based floodgate, but they still have a homicidal clones or a test in the opposition or a chill's army reinforcements or a freezes army reinforcements just chilling in hand? Like, you're just gonna feel like a chump. On top of that, he has no way to get around blocker, so that's a whole nother thing. Like, there's a lot this guy can run into because his main ability is to swing for 40k quad strike for free, but that's only 1 negate or a barrier blocker away from just hurting yourself very badly. Now, we are going to get into the Gogeta deck in the next coming days. I think we should only be waiting for like maybe a couple more spoilers from the amount of cards they have here based off the numbers of the Sin cards we got and the numbers of the blue cards we got. So we should only really be looking for a couple more cards if I'm not mistaken. But specifically in that deck, because of the way it's built, you're going to be able to utilize your 4 energy and then go even further beyond with the Z Awaken, but then also be able to play this card because it's free. So in the Gogeta deck in specific, you're going to be able to use this in an incredibly oppressive game pushing turn. However, that is not the way it's going to work in most of the current red decks. Most of the current red decks will immediately benefit more from playing Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. So this card, off the rip, I think this card is the best card out of all three, but even it has limited uses. In most red decks, I think you're just flat out playing SSB Vegeta before anything. And in most blue decks, I think you're still playing Hatch. And in most yellow decks, I think Gohan Piccolo is still probably better, but the Barddock is good. You have to be careful about it because I think Barddock gets the most mileage. The fact that Barddock will make it a lot harder, especially in the color yellow. Barddock will make it a lot harder for your opponent to kill you next turn, while potentially pushing your opponent very heavily on your current turn. That's another thing that I think lots of people should realize. I kind of didn't mention it earlier, but Barddock costs 3. So using Barddock in a late game situation, you'll be able to tap 3 to use Barddock, tap your opponent's card down, tap 2 more for Bergamo, tap 2 of your opponent's energy down, and then see what you want to do. So potentially with 5 energy, Barddock and Bergamo coming down at the same time could potentially be very, very distressing for the average human who likes to play the game. So that's a thing. But I know this video is a little long, but I wanted to go into all the secret rares in depth. I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis, and we will be getting into the rest of the archetype reviews as this upcoming week goes. So thank you guys. Like I said, if you want to support the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 2K. We're just about 50 away, and there are other channels in the description you can hit up too if you want to support Universe X. Thanks, and I will see you the very next time you decide to join.